Welcome to the MEF2C Cast, a podcast dedicated to educating, supporting, and building community around MEF2C haploinsufficiency syndrome.
The MEF2C Cast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Views expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily of the podcast or its sponsors. This is not medical advice. Consult a healthcare professional for medical concerns.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the MEF2C Cast. Eli here again to give a couple short announcements and clarifications before the episode. So, first of all, once again, the U.S. MEF2C Foundation is going to be organizing a meetup for families in the Cincinnati, Ohio area, June 6th, 7th, and 8th. So, arriving the evening of the 6th, there'll be a group dinner and possibly a group activity that afternoon. Group activities all day on the 7th, and then leaving on the 8th, possibly with a group activity that morning as well. If you guys are able to make it, please come out. We would love to see you. We don't have any association with the U.S. Foundation other than we think they do great work, just like all the foundations in this space, but it is incredible to meet other families who have the same experiences that you do, other children who might act like your children, whose brains work the same way. It has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life when that has happened. As I said, please come out. We're going to be there. We'd love to see you. You can check the Facebook group or the website for more details. That's usmef2cfoundation.org. I believe they have a block of hotel rooms available at a discount, and then we can all stay in the same hotel. There are some other costs associated. We're going to be going to the aquarium, it sounds like, as a group. They have some group meals planned that might incur some cost, but if you guys have the time and the money, again, please come out. So yeah, again, that's June 6th, 7th, and 8th. Check the Facebook group or usmef2cfoundation.org for details. I do think you have to RSVP for most of these things by May 19th. So this episode will probably premiere, let's see here, on the 16th. So if you hear this, you probably have 3 days or less left. Otherwise, just enjoy our episode with Erin and Chris. Thanks, everyone. Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to the MEF2C Cast. We are here with Chris Kninitski and Erin Kindrachuk. They are parents to Sam, who has MCHS, and they are also two of the founders of the MEF2C Family Foundation. How are you guys today?
Hi, Eli. Thanks for having us. I'm doing great.
We're good, thanks, Eli.
Good. So you can start by just telling me a little bit about your family, as much or as little as you like, what you guys do, how many kids you have, lifestyle, hobbies, stuff like that.
Sure. I'll start off. We have a family of 5, 3 little kids. Ellie, 7, Julian is 4, and Sam is coming up on 2 years. He's about 22 months. We live in Saskatoon. I'm an accountant by training, and Erin is in HR, so we're kind of like the desk-based business professionals, which helps with a lot of the flexibility around those children and all their needs, of course. We live in a quiet little town in Saskatoon, Canada. It's quite nice and comfortable for us, and it meets our needs for sure. Anything else, Erin?
No, I don't think so. I think that sums it up pretty nice. I don't think we have hobbies, but I don't know many parents who have hobbies.
Yeah.
Chasing their children around.
Alrighty, can you tell us a little bit about Sam's life and kind of your process leading up to getting his diagnosis?
Yeah, for sure. Sam was born in July of 2023, and just like the cutest little baby in the world. I would say when he was born, the first thing the doctor said was how big his lips were. And he had like a little mole on his neck, and so they wondered if the doctor had scratched him. Things are pretty normal for the first month. This was our 3rd child, so not that you're an expert with 3 children, but I had 2 at least reference points before that. And I would say at 4 weeks old, when he wasn't smiling yet, that's when I started to suspect something was just different. And a lot of people kids develop at their own pace, and of course I know that and understand that, and that is true. But I just had this gut feeling, even as early as 4 weeks old, that something was just different about Sam compared to our other children. That really escalated, I would say, until when would he have been? We took him to doctors. The doctors, I really don't know if they actually believed me.
Mm-hmm.
3 months old, I was saying, like, it just looks like he's like looking through me. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really look like he's in there. He's still very like low toned, and it just seems like he's not like in there. I don't know. I just couldn't really describe it that well. We had asked for like blood work and just like started to really advocate for checkups. At about 6 months old, he was like gone completely. It was just like he wasn't responding to sounds anymore. He just was not. It really looked like there was like no soul inside this little adorable baby's body. And that's when I had asked to have an EEG. And we were told it was going to be like a 6-month wait list. And luckily, you know, you can be at the right place at the right time. And the booking agent actually said, like, if you can come basically tomorrow, we can squeeze him in. And I expected it to be like every other test that he had done, which was like coming back, like everything is fine and normal. And they said it was going to be about like an hour, I think. And at the hour mark, they still weren't coming back. And I remember saying to Chris, like, something is wrong. Like, I know it. And that's when they had found the brainwave pattern called hypsarrhythmia. And that is I don't know, I'm probably not explaining this accurately for any medical people listening. They can correct me, but that was the brainwave pattern for infantile spasms. And so they wanted to keep us overnight for a 24-hour EEG. The next day, they said that he actually was not having real clinical infantile spasms. Like they just thought that we had caught it earlier before they progressed to this like full-fledged infantile spasm seizure. And that's really what kicked off the genetic testing
So
process.
sorry to interrupt you. You'll have to forgive my ignorance. Are spasms different than seizures?
They're a type of seizure.
Okay.
They're a type of seizure that I believe is really very, very rare. Sorry, I lost the word. They're very rare. And so again, like when I was saying that I was worried about this, actually Sam was born with a full knot in his umbilical cord and the cord wrapped around his neck. So even that is like so incredibly rare to have that happen. And I remember the first thing the doctor saying to us again after the lip and the mole comment was how lucky we were that nothing actually happened to him in labor. So I was kind of down a different path with what I thought was wrong with him. I thought that he had had some sort of trauma from lack of like blood flow or oxygen in the birthing process with that knot in his cord. So that I think also because of that, it really kept me on like super on guard of like something is definitely wrong. I was obviously wrong with what I thought was wrong, but like we were right that something was wrong. So after that infantile spasms or hypsarrhythmia, he was on steroids. And then that's when they put him on, the neurologist at that time did the request for the genetic panel.
I see. So the thing that I pull from that story is to trust the mother's intuition because, Leo's our only child and Haley got the same feeling relatively early on too. And I was kind of dismissive, not in a bad way, but just I didn't have any experience with kids. And I was like, well, if he's a couple months behind by the time he's a little older, like that's, 2 or 3 months behind is a big difference when they're 6 months old. But by the time they're 3, that's like negligible. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, he would just like look through people the way you were talking.
Yeah.
I guess that just goes to prove that a mother's intuition is almost always correct.
I would say we had the same story, Eli. Chris is just naturally not a worried person, and I'm probably not probably, I'm a 100% more of a worried person.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris was like, Erin, he's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. And I was like, that's like 100% not the case, and nothing is fine right now. So, yeah, we had the same situation in our family, even with 3 kids. So
Mm-hmm.
it happened to anybody.
And for the record, I do have regrets about that.
Yeah. What was the process of actually getting the diagnosis like? Did you guys have to fight for it a lot, or how did that all work?
Well, I don't think we had to fight for it. I think we had to fight for everything up until that point. Like he was on a list to get an MRI as well, so on an outpatient list. And then again, because I don't think anybody really thought it was that serious. I don't know. I mean, I do think the doctors, especially the developmental pediatrician, like she was just kind of said, you're on as urgent as you can be, but like you're still an outpatient. So once we were hospitalized with that EEG process, they got us in for an MRI like the next day. And I would say the medical team and care was really great. Like, I think it's just, as you know, these kids, they're just so cute. It is so, what they're dealing with is so rare. So even like the stereotypical movements that Sam has and had even as a baby, it wasn't like a classical pattern for anything that would be like a common thing that doctors would like be like, yeah, this is for sure what's going on. So I can totally understand and appreciate like why there was maybe some degree of skepticism there, or just like question marks about what it could be. And I wouldn't say that we had to fight for the diagnosis, because truly in the hospital, she put those panels in right away to say like what is causing these seizures. And they told us right at that time of hospital, with infantile spasms, like a third of people, you will never know the reason why. A third of people, it's because of like a brain structural malformation, and a third is from a genetic condition. And so they knocked out like the brain. His brain MRI came back completely normal. Then they said, we'll just have to wait and see. So I don't think we had to fight for that diagnosis. It was more so everything leading up to that point.
That all makes sense.
No,
So once you got the diagnosis, like what was each of your reactions?
It was gut wrenching. It was horrible. I just remember reading all the same things that everybody else has spoke about on this, and yeah, it was the most devastating moment for sure. Like that night, and for weeks beyond it. But I don't know. I think we made. I feel like I made it through that better. For it, for now, I suppose, and I think we're still dealing with that up and down, the emotions that come with it, but very quickly, it seems now looking back that I feel kind of like content and comfortable with where we're at. I know Sam is going to be okay. I'm eager to make his life as good as it can be, but leading up, I think at that point, yeah, I certainly won't forget sitting on the couch and reading through all the papers and stuff, and having that inform your expectations for where things are going to be and how they're going to be different from what you expected, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a sense of relief that you had gotten to the bottom of the thing?
I would say definitively no. I don't recall any relief. I think now I am very grateful for a diagnosis, understanding what alternative realities could have been like if Sam still had issues and we didn't have a diagnosis. I think that's a very difficult spot to be in. Not that I really understand it, but no, at the time, definitely not. Because like Erin said, I was still kind of the mindset that, this is just a typical delay. Kids develop at different rates all the time. And I really wasn't expecting something. I didn't really know what I expected, but it didn't come as relief.
Yeah. For me, there was kind of, I was holding out a little bit of hope that this was something that it's like, oh, he just needs this pill or this therapy, or you know what I mean? Like there was some button we could press that would make it better. And when the diagnosis came and that wasn't the case, that was certainly disappointing. But what about you, Erin? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I think I would really echo Chris's comments. I actually remember answering the phone call on my Apple Watch, to be fully honest, and just because I knew that the number was the neurologist, but I didn't know where my phone was, and I just thought, oh, I better answer this. And she said, "It's okay, I'll call you back tomorrow." And as soon as she said that, I knew, if it was nothing, you would just say that and then on. So it was a really tragic night, honestly, Eli. We still had our kids to put to bed, and as you know, the whole bedtime routine and trying to hold it together when they said this information, trying to just not that I have anything against breaking down in front of your children or crying in front of your children, but it wasn't the moment to, go into full sobbing mode when we were putting our kids to bed. I think, I've heard it from many people, even just on your podcast, which is great, by the way. Thank you for doing this, because the materials that were available at that time, and I mean, it's only not even been a year, and it's so much even better in the last year, but it was just dismal, like it was not, and I mean, every kid is going to have a different trajectory, but even just to hear that would have made a lot of difference for us. And I do believe actually the next day I had a very nice call again with his developmental pediatrician, and she really, I mean, these people in healthcare, they're so loving and they see all sorts of things. And she really walked us through, like, Sam's story is going to be Sam's story and we're going to help him as much as possible. But really that first, I mean, nobody can prepare you. Nobody can prepare you to just hear that your life is going to be so much different. Even if we had this gut feeling, which I just alluded that I had, I still was hoping Chris was right, like was still in your heart, you hope that that's not going to be the case. And then you get kind of some outdated materials about it feels like nothing's ever going to be okay again. And it was really hard. It was a really hard night and weeks to follow. Months, still hard. It's still hard. It's easier, obviously, but it's still hard.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, to kind of echo what we talked about in our episode with Dr. Chung, why testing is so important, especially trying to get older people tested. Because, the reason that a lot of those, I mean, I'm not explaining anything you guys don't know, but for our audience, the reason a lot of those sort of projected outcomes are so bleak is because almost all the data they have is on children. I mean, first off, the data they have is extremely limited, and what they do have is on younger people. So they can't really make any projections about what adulthood is going to be like because there's just not very many adults who have been diagnosed. And from what I've seen on the Facebook group, there's some people for whom that diagnosis is true as an adult, and there's some people for whom it's not. So I don't want to, falsely raise expectations by saying that that might not be the case, but it's not necessarily the case. But yeah, I mean, I kind of had a inherent understanding when he said, there's only 400 or some people with it, was like, well, then you can't really tell me anything. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know anything about this. So,
right.
But obviously, just having to go through the process of mourning literally what you thought the rest of your life would be, it's not anymore, is really difficult. So does Sam have an autism diagnosis or any other diagnoses like that?
No, I think he's actually still too young for that technical diagnosis. He's not even 2 years old yet, and we've never explored that as like something that we're trying to pursue. So no is the short answer to it.
So in the States, an autism diagnosis opens up a lot of doors to services and things like that. Is that the same case in Canada or not?
Honestly, I feel like a little bit ignorant around all across Canada, that I don't want to speak to that.
Sure, yeah.
Not that I would love to speak to it, I just feel uneducated to speak to it.
Yeah,
I should write it down as a takeaway that I should become more educated on it. I do think it opens up doors, but it also can depend, because I think the government gives you money to support that, and I think there's lots of extra services and stuff for that. But I am not sure if then your access to some of the services that we currently get through the public therapies, maybe that goes away. I don't know. I need to do more information gathering on that. I've heard a lot about what's going on, like opening doors in the States and stuff, and I'm fascinated to hear more about that. I think because Sam is still so young, and I don't even think they can officially diagnose him at this age.
Right.
We really haven't explored it. And also, like, I mean, this is just my personal opinion, and it certainly shouldn't represent anything. I don't know if it would matter right now for Sam. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is who he is, and he's getting, I don't think our family schedule could allow for any more therapies. Like, I feel like he's doing his thing, and he is who he is. And I don't know if a diagnosis on top of that at this point is something that feels like it matters until we have more understanding of what other supports it could open up.
Yeah. Yeah, in the States, I mean, it's more for like, we have early intervention for kids under 3, I believe, and then it kind of moves to the school system and stuff. But as far as like getting insurance to cover things and things like Medicare and like Social Security and stuff like that, getting those resources, the autism diagnosis opens up a lot of doors, just because like when you tell them he has MCHS, they don't even know what that is.
It might be relevant in like when it comes to us having to deal with caring for children or family members with intellectual disabilities, but I don't know if the diagnosis specifically plays a part in that. It's more pediatrician or doctor recommended.
Yeah.
status that allows for those programs to be accessible, but we have everything to meet our needs right now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear it. So what was kind of, once you got the diagnosis and kind of digested it, where did you go from there?
I think we kind of jumped into action mode. We, over those 6 months post-diagnosis and beyond, still currently we're in that mode, I think, but we reached out to all kinds of geneticists, experts, dozens upon conversations. We've kind of dove deep into the rare disease news and information and connected with a dad that is quite popular in the rare disease world. His name's Terry Piravalakis, and he got his son diagnosed with SPG 50 and treated him with a gene therapy 2 years after that, in 2020. And we very quickly kind of went towards the pursuit of like therapy and therapeutics to find something that we think could help Sam as soon as possible, really. And have been really pushing down that road quite a lot since then.
And I would say the community, like the families on the Facebook page, and just, not even just the Facebook page, the foundation leaders, the leaders just in the community, the admins of the Facebook page, just parents themselves, like really, what a welcoming environment, and what a nice group of people to feel like very invited and welcomed into that group. I would say that, therapists are telling us to feel our feelings, but I think that for us, it's just been like, what can we do? How can we help? Where can we best support what is needed? And it feels like driving from an action-oriented perspective has been really helpful for us, of not just how can we help Sam, but all of these kids. And really, I would say as we go down and learn more about just rare disease in general, not just MCHS, it's remarkable the work that people around the world are doing to advocate for their kids, and the organizations that exist and the scientists that exist doing the work in this space. I don't even know if I could have told you a year ago what a gene is, other than like science class of high school, what gives you like brown eyes or blue eyes. So I feel like our worlds are a lot bigger than they used to be.
Yeah, my mom, so she's a special needs preschool teacher, and she came with us to the conference in Boston, kind of speaking to what you're saying about what parents are capable of. And I was kind of confused because I'm like, well, ostensibly everybody's going to be bringing their children with them. Like, how is anybody going to get anything done if they have these high support need children with them the entire time? And my mom said, you have no idea what these people are capable of. Like, they figure it out, because she's been around communities like that for decades. And it is incredible, just, and I think that's been, for me, one of the positives about starting on this thing is like just my capability to just be like, all right, let's do something about this, and just figure it out has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So,
That's
go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. I think about it often, when the kids are out of the house or at grandparents and we're sitting there on the couch reading or doing something with our spare time. We're like, what did we do with all of that spare time when we had no kids? And then you're down to, from 2 to 1 kid, somebody's at a play date, and you're like, what did we do with all that spare time when we had 1 kid? And now 3, and it just snowballs. And that is an example of how you just find the time to do the things that need to be done.
Right, yeah. So what does Sam's daily routine look like now?
Yeah, Sam, it goes to daycare at the same daycare provider as our middle son, whose name is Julian. Our daycare provider is awesome. It's a very small day home, and he's not like that challenging to take care of. He just requires a lot of extra help. So he can't walk yet, but he crawls and he pulls up to standing. And so he doesn't like play with the other kids. He kind of just plays by himself. He needs some help feeding himself. So I think that we are so lucky that he just gets to go to the daycare where Julian goes, because Julian looks out for him. Like, Sam is the most popular kid at that daycare, for sure, because he's a baby and everybody else is like 3 years old and above. But he is treated like a little prince, I have to tell you. Like, they dote on him. He gets carried around like a sweet little angel. It's pretty remarkable. He's in a lot of therapies, and would have to say that would not be possible if not for a really strong support system. Our families are incredibly involved. We have like a shared Sam calendar where they know where he's going and when. And, my mom's showing up at all hours of the day just to take either Julian to school or Sam to his therapies. My, sisters are helping out, and the parents just, I really feel very grateful for the support network that we have. Chris and I are still working full time and we have very busy jobs. And so it's one of the things that actually really makes me feel frustrated. And somebody posted the other day on the Facebook page about just like, where's the care for the caregivers? And it really feels like there's something missing there of, if we didn't have this family network, I don't know if we would be able to do all the things that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if both of us would still be able to be working full time, or if somebody would have had to take a less intense job or reduced hours in some capacity. I really feel grateful for our network because our kids need a lot of support, and you need to kind of have like the social network and society that supports that, enabling that to happen.
Yeah, we're in a very similar situation where both our families are really great. And, like I said, having my mom helps because she understands how to navigate the system as far as like getting, with early intervention and things like that. And then when Haley was going to go back to work, we had no idea what we were going to do for daycare. And then we kind of had a mutual friend of somebody else who does in-home daycare, and she did a great job with them. And then, just kind of fell into our lap. And
Yeah.
then I think she had another grandkid, and she just wasn't going to be able to take Leo anymore. And she said, well, I can't watch him anymore, but it just so happens that the fire department where her husband worked, they have a new chief, and the chief's wife said that she would watch him. And she was a physical therapist in the school system for years. So now we have a physical therapist that watches our child all day, and it's the
Like,
best. Her
amazing.
name's Stephanie, and she's amazing, and we love her so much.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I really feel for people who don't have that, because I mean, Leo's our only child, and I don't know how we would do it if
Yeah.
like we live somewhere where we weren't close to our family. So
Yeah.
those families that are in that situation certainly have a tremendous amount of respect from me.
Yeah, us too. Us too.
I met a dad in Saskatoon whose daughter has a rare disease, and it was diagnosed in like early COVID. And he talked a lot about how difficult that would have been just because you don't have the benchmarks. You can't even see other kids to get the benchmarks.
Right, yeah.
It would have been so hard to actually find the services that you need to support that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
My sister is a developmental physiotherapist, so she works with.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I feel like we're lucky too, because we can't go a couple of days without sneaking in like a little session here or there from Auntie, who's always putting Sammy to work, some like in a obviously a very nice way. But yeah,
Right, yeah.
I feel like, given the circumstances, we have a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. You said he's still crawling, correct? Is he working on walking at all? What are you guys doing there?
Well, it's like, I don't know, but
He's working on it. Guess we have walking practice once a week. Knees to chin is his motto. Knees to chin.
He
So
really likes to take some high steps. We have a little gait trainer, I think it's called that. And so he goes in that. He doesn't seem to love it, honestly. I think.
Is it like a walker he pulls behind him? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but because he's still so little and kind of unstable, it is like goes around his tummy too. But in theory, you could
Gotcha.
take that strap off. And so, yes, he has one of those. He loves to be standing. Like, he doesn't really want to be on like the ground. So he really likes to be standing. And I know that's really good for him. He pulls himself up to stand and he cruises along the couch. I think it's just a matter of time for him. And he still needs to get a little bit more core stability. But he even when we see him in that little gait trainer, like, he knows that he needs to move his legs from A to B to get to where he wants. And so it'll be a matter of time, I think, for him. But he's doing okay. It was a very, very cute milestone to see him really crawling. He kind of still looks like a bit of a baby deer.
Yeah, Leo does a crawl. He'll crawl like properly if he has to like crawl over a baby gate or like get through a technical place, like technical course of crawling. But otherwise, he just reaches with his hands and then yanks his knees under him. It's almost like a bunny hop.
we only had the snow was just kind of finished melting a few weeks ago here, so we're excited to get his walker outside where there's a lot more space, and maybe that'll help him understand his capabilities a little bit more and get him more motivated to.
Sure. So I feel like, you know, the with Leo at least, kind of the symptoms limit each other in that if we could explain to him a little better what he needed to do and like sort of cheer him on and give him a little bit of confidence, I think he could get to that walking point a lot faster. But because we can't communicate with him, you know, that kind seems to compound a lot of the motor skill issues.
Right.
So that's just really frustrating.
Yeah.
Does he
But
like being outside?
It sounds like Leo's doing very well. You said he was taking some steps and stuff, so that's...
Yeah, he's got SMOs and AFOs, so the short braces and the tall braces. And Thursday at therapy, Haley said he walked a pretty good ways in his SMOs with the therapist just kind of standing behind him, tapping on his hips to just kind of cue him. So that's been good, but he's 2 years, like 7 months, a little over 2.5, somewhere in there. So
That's wonderful. Yeah, shout out to the therapists, hey? Like, how do they know how to do all this? Like a little hip tap and then they just start like doing the thing. It's just remarkable.
Yeah.
I feel like they make it look so easy and then we get home and we're trying to do the work and it's like, how are we supposed to do this? And what's supposed to be happening right now? It's pretty...
It gets a little bit frustrating though, because they're like, all you have to do is this. And it's like, oh, that's all I have to do, really?
Yeah.
But they mean well, of course.
Yeah, of course.
We're struggling with the lessons or the practice we have to do with SLP with speech. Like we're finding it not as easy to have the patience to sit down and like go through those tasks and things when it doesn't produce, the results don't come very fast, right? So you really have to be patient, and that's what kind of we need to start focusing more on.
What do they have him do relative to speech? Sorry.
It's like the button, the communication buttons. What's it called? The big button that just help,
like he smacks a button and it says a word.
Yeah, and like the assisted communication pages that we're trying to emphasize a little bit more, and just getting him to respond and participate.
Mm-hmm.
Is Leo doing those kinds of things too, or is that a way of communication that you're finding?
We have a AAC. He doesn't use that very much. We tried the button thing for a long time, and he wasn't really getting it. But he just kind of figured out switch toys. So like earlier, he was playing with a new toy he got, and he understands. Presses the button, makes it do the thing. So I think maybe we should revisit the buttons a little bit.
Right.
But the thing that we've had the most success with is like packaged snacks. Like he can choose his own food now, which I just feel like is great for him to have some control over his life. But we can place physical things in front of them and he can pick which one he wants. But kind of systems that put any step in front of him and the thing, he's not quite figured out yet.
Yeah, I feel like it's like, I think the basic theory for us with SLP right now is like cause and effect. So he's very well aware. We have lots of light up toys. I don't know if you guys have it, but like a sloth that it kind of, you push a button and it, I don't know, it just shakes its head. It doesn't actually look that exciting, but for Sam, it's very exciting. And he knows, like pushes the button. He does a little something else as soon as the song ends. He goes back and pushes the button and he went back and I was watching him do this last night. And so I'm thinking like, he knows what he's doing. He knows that when he pushes that button, the little sloth starts to sing its little song. Then he goes off and does this thing and goes back once the song is done. So I think it's really remarkable how tuned in you get to the kids. Like I see him if he's just like staring at his milk cup. He's not where Leo is, but it's like, oh, you want a drink of milk. Like I can see that you're like locked on that, and that's really what you want. So I believe that he knows a lot of what he wants. It's just a matter of time and how he's going to express himself. He used to babble quite a bit when he was a little baby. And he still does like different sounds, I would say, but not anywhere close to like words. So we're just kind of going with the baby steps.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then that's remarkable. And I think we're all just sort of prepared for that not to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the wheels are definitely turning in their head, at least the kids that I've interacted with, more than you think. It's just their physical. Like the other day, it was funny. Leo was leaning against our recliner, with like his butt against his kind of his waist is at the top of the seat. So he's standing up facing out in the living room, and you could tell he wanted to walk, and he's like yelling and wrist flapping. And I think either like this sounds silly, but like he's out in the garage with me all the time while I'm working out. So I think either he was trying to hype himself up like I would before a big set, you know what I mean? Or he's just like, would you please work? Like he just could not get his body
Right.
to do what he wanted it to do.
Right.
And a lot of, it's not directly related to MCHS, but a lot of autistic people who have been able to speak or use spell to communicate or whatever means that they can say that that's like the primary issue is their apraxia in their mind, is that they can't make their bodies do what they want. And actually, I was listening to a podcast the other day where there was a guy who works with spellers was talking about autistic people, and like he had some people he worked with who were autistic that every time you'd meet them they'd ask him the same questions. They'd be like, what's your name, what's your favorite color? And he would tell them. And so if that was their only means of communication, you would think that they just forget that every time, and then they spell to him and they say, I'm really sorry I have to ask you that question every time, I just can't help myself. So I just think a lot of it is just that they cannot make themselves do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
How does he do eating? Can he feed himself?
He is just starting to grab a few crackers and a few little bunny crackers and stuff, and probably 50% successful in getting them into his mouth. But it's happening. It's the inch storms are kind of every week, so I think we're on the way there. Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's such a huge relief when that happens, and you don't have to sit there and actually feed them every bite, and they can feed themselves finger foods.
Yeah, Meredith said it. I actually think I was started to tear up on listening to your podcast when Meredith was talking about just the exhaustion of like making the food and then feeding the food. And you're so used to just as a parent, like how much of your life is spent just multitasking. I mean,
Right.
not just as a parent, just as a human. And it is so tiring to have to be just one-on-one all of the time. And I also recognize like I mean, there's always lots of like things to be grateful for. So he can chew very well. He drinks very well. He is on thickened liquids, which we can circle back to. But, he likes food, but it's so tiring. And I really identified with that when Meredith talked about that. But we're all very excited when we look back and like I have left the table and then I see him like gnawing on a piece of cheese. That was last night. And you're like, how did he get that? Like, I didn't even know he could do that. So that's awesome. And it is also very heartwarming for our older kids. I don't think they fully get what's going on. Like kids' brains are pretty magic, but they're like, Mom, Dad, Sam grabbed a cracker. Like they're so happy for him because they just pick up on like our excitement for these little wins. And so I think it's coming.
Yeah, that's great. Does he still have seizures?
No, he is on Keppra twice a day, and we haven't ever witnessed a clinical seizure or anything. We think it was inevitable with the hips arrhythmia. That's what the neurologist had told us anyway. But one has never been recorded, but we're kind of on the preventative path still, and I think we'll look at the next stages of weaning him off.
That's great.
If that happens, but yeah.
I feel it's something that kind of, for me, feels like a boogeyman in the closet, though. Like it just, I think you were saying it actually, like you just don't really think about it or don't know what to look for. And because we were told that we caught these brain waves, that hips arrhythmia before those spasms started, it's just always been in like the back of my mind of like what's going to come next. But Sam has had a lot of EEGs and a lot of observation, and so far nothing's been captured. There's never been anything we've seen, but we're sort of, it's always lurking in the back of my mind, for sure.
Yeah, I worry too, because sometimes seizures can be very subtle, and and sometimes kind of the stimming behaviors are kind of perseverating on an object that they like or something can seem really similar to a seizure too. So
Right.
I, at least earlier on, worried a lot that he was having things and we were just missing them.
I still do, yep.
Yeah. How does he sleep?
We're very grateful. He's not as good of a sleeper as our other kids, but I don't think we have anything to complain about when it comes to Sam. He, is 8 o'clock to bedtime, and 6 o'clock, 5:30 sleeps through. Some nights are better than others, and every once in a while we'll find ourselves up for a few hours in the middle of the night. But on average, I think it's okay.
Well, that's great.
We have a Nest Cam that captures his movements, and just, it's like every morning, I'm sure, I don't think we're unique in this, you kind of like check the footage, like what happened overnight. And I know you guys referenced it with like the parties in the middle of the night. So sometimes he does do that, but it's not to the point where it wakes us up. And I think it was Meredith with talking about value. She's like, you do you, girl. Like, that's how I feel about Sam. Like, if you're going to get up for a couple hours in the night and that's just what you need to do, and you're just sort of tootling around in there, like, have at it kind of thing. I do feel like that happens when something is happening for him. Like if he's getting teeth when he was teething, his sleep was affected. If he's sick, his sleep is affected. I always want to be cautious of like attributing things to like MCHS versus just like children in general. Like our other children, when they were teething, did not sleep as well, or when they're sick, they don't sleep as well. So some of that stuff is to be expected. It just feels like more exaggerated when it is like like the odd, 4 a.m. wake up. Like, you're kind of like, okay, Sam, like, get it together. We're not waking up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, that's arguably, in my opinion, one of the hardest things about this is trying to untangle what is MCHS and what is just normal
Right.
kid stuff. Because if you attribute every negative thing that happens to MCHS, then it can feel really heavy. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
1,000%.
he has this thing and all of these bad things are happening because of this. But I mean, a lot of times it's just like, no, toddlers are cranky sometimes. Sometimes they don't sleep. Sometimes they're a little bit ornery and they don't listen to directions. Sometimes they cry for no reason. You know what I mean? So that's something that's really difficult, but I try to keep in mind. I also think it's interesting that, like, I've spoke to at least probably 4 or 5 different people who have used the word party to describe that thing in the middle of the night that the kids do. And I just think it's funny that we've all independently decided to use the same word for it.
He used to have this, when he was little, he had a preference for like looking one way. And so we bought this little like light up toy that hung on the side of the crib that I hoped would make him like kind of look the other way, and did not work at all. But we eventually had to take it out of his crib, because he figured out how to like stand up and turn it on. And I mean, like, this is exactly what you're saying. Like, sometimes kids' behavior is just funny, regardless of what is the underlying cause of it. But he got so mad at us when we took it out of his crib, like screaming and crying. And on the one hand, you're like, okay, cool, you have an opinion. Like, I'm actually happy to hear you cry and get mad about this, because I know you're in there. You have an opinion, and that is really cool to see too.
Does he... like Leo would live his entire life upside down if he could. Like, he loves to roughhouse, loves to be flipped around, thrown. I mean, I think he would literally let me squeeze him to death if I was willing. But does he like play like that?
I would probably say not quite yet. He's a dainty little boy,
I got you.
but he's only just started to get, I think, strong enough that I can kind of maybe throw him up a little tiny bit, and he's really, he likes that. It makes him smile quite a lot. But so we're not quite at that stage of roughhouse.
I
see.
would feel nervous, like his core strength, or like his neck strength. Is it there yet? I think we've always kind of treated him like a little prince, because he has just not had like the strength yet. But I mean, honestly, mostly what he likes to do is snuggle and cuddle. And so he wants to just be carried around and just nuzzle into you.
Yeah. Leo is like that with Haley, but me, like, if he can get to my shoulders or my head, he's trying. So I'll hold him so, like, his knees are on my shoulders and he's got his stomach against my back and, like, his head hanging down.
He loves it.
Yeah, and if he can reach my head, he's trying to climb over my shoulder to get in that position.
I love it.
But with the strength, it's interesting too. Leo is very strong. I mean, he's big, which is atypical of MCHS kids too. I mean, he's 40 pounds. I mean, he's like a 4-year-old. He's really strong in bursts, but he doesn't seem to have very much strength endurance. And there's some limited research. There was a paper from 2015, so there could have been something that came out since then that contradicts this. I haven't read, or I just haven't seen it yet. But they found that in mice, in the gastrocnemius muscle, which is a muscle in your calf that's really heavily biased towards endurance because it's involved in walking. It's almost all slow twitch fibers. The mice, their gastrocnemius was almost all fast twitch fibers. which I thought was interesting because that could potentially explain why he's so strong, but he can't endure. And that would also make a lot of sense for motor skill because fast twitch fibers require a high demand to activate. So you can't like be explosive and, I mean, you can, but it's a lot harder to be explosive and super precise at the same time. When you're learning a new motor skill, you're not going to do it as explosively as you can. So again, that's extremely limited research, and that's just my conjecture based on one paper. I just thought it was fascinating.
That's very interesting.
Does he like being outside? You mentioned that earlier.
I think so. We live in Canada where it is cold for a lot of the time, so maybe we need to be better as parents of liking to being outside when it is like minus, I don't know what the Fahrenheit equivalent of Celsius minus 40 is.
That's cold.
In
It's
the in the months where the air doesn't hurt your skin,
Yes, yeah.
he loves it. He like
Yeah.
strollers. He's so content going for an hour-long stroller ride. He'll just sit there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he likes like going on now that it's nice and warm out. He likes being on the swing and outside and stuff like that. I think like he's really little still. Like I think we forget about that too. Of like, yeah, for sure, he does like being outside. He's also just not even 22 months old yet. So yeah.
Yeah. What about water? I know that a lot of people with MCHS really, really like water.
As in drinking water? Or
No,
like
as in like playing
drinking?
in the pool or in the bathtub or things like that.
Yeah, he's pretty drawn to the tub. We
Mhm.
haven't gone so much to the pool. I guess some occasionally.
You know, I think when we were, it seemed like the sound of water really calmed him down. I remember when he would be like, he was quite an irritable baby. And if you would listen to the sound of the tub running, he would really like get like subdued from that. I don't know if he likes water now more than like any average kid. Like again, going back to just kids in general, like our other two kids love being in the tub. So
Right.
I think that I would identify with that, especially when I think about when he was little and just how much he liked like the sound of water. I don't see that anymore in him. But he's not averse to water.
Gotcha.
Like, he's happy around it.
Yeah, that just seems to be one of the quirks that's really common is like really liking to splash in the water. But from what I've heard, it is something that they tend to outgrow. And also like this disorder is so diverse. I mean, it's literally sort of practically infinitely complex. So there's going to be variance from
Yeah,
person
for
to person. Has he improved socially at all? You were talking about like looking through people and things like that. Like how does he interact with people now?
I think he's pretty good, honestly, Eli. Like, especially when I mean, if going back to my earlier story about when I felt like we lost him, that was really caused by that hips arrhythmia, which I think was like building over a little while. Like, I thought he had lost his hearing because he wasn't responding to sound. He wasn't looking at people. He just wanted to look into the sky. And I remember talking to James from the UK, MEF2C Foundation, and he said something very similar. And so that, I wonder about how much of that was just caused by that hips arrhythmia or just being young. I think he's very alert and attentive now. Like if he hears a sound or somebody come in the room, he'll look up and see what is happening and who it is. He loves his therapists. He loves interacting with them. He likes, playing with, like, not with, I guess, but again, I don't know a lot of kids who are like two who are like interactive playing. It's still kind of parallel play at that point. So do you have anything else to say? I don't know.
I think we're just getting started on how he likes to play and interact with the world. I think about it that, Sam is starting to put his footprint on the environment around him more so than the environment around him just like passing him by. And so I think he's going to really start playing and probably tumbling with his brother and sister a little bit more regularly all the time too. He's still quite young.
Yeah, that's interesting because Leo, to be fair, we haven't had him around kids his age in a little while, but he's got a cousin who's around his age, and he will. It's literally like she's invisible. Like he'll interact with adults, and even he's got a cousin who's 6, I think. He'll interact with her. Now, because he's so big, it freaks her out because he's like 3/4 of her size and he just tries to climb her. But But yeah, his little cousin, like literally, like she doesn't exist. I've never seen anything like it. Has there been any like therapies or interventions in particular that you guys have found to be really helpful?
Great question. Sam really responds to the physiotherapy. He's also more so than the others, like speech or occupational therapy. He's just, I think, younger. It has a bigger impact on him. And so I can't think of anything specific in the programs that we do that are really helping him.
I believe for our audience, physiotherapy and physical therapy in the States are
Same
roughly
thing.
equivalent.
Same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think physical therapists, physiotherapists, yes, they would be the same thing. I think because again, like natural childhood development, as far as I understand it, and if my sister ever listens to this, she'll probably scold me for saying the wrong thing because that's her job. But as far as I understand it, like your gross motor skills, like those come first, and then it's like fine motor skills, and like language is this thing on its own. So I think for us, we were probably biased towards the results that we're seeing from like physical therapy or physiotherapy from a gross motor skills perspective, because that's just like a natural, easier thing for Sam to learn at this point. Because we do see him going from where he was a year ago. If you would have told me he was going to crawl, I don't know if I would have believed you a year ago. Even when we went to Boston, and I'm thinking about like that was, I mean, a little over 6 months ago now, but I wouldn't have thought that he'd be crawling within 6 months of that assessment. He wasn't doing that when we went to Boston. And so we see just stronger gains on the physical gross motor side, but I also think that part of that is just like natural progression of what skills develop first.
Yeah. You know, and with speech in particular, like there are plenty of people who don't start to speak until, you know, 3-ish, 4-ish sometimes, and end up being fully verbal. So that's not to say that anyone's kid is just, you know, or isn't, but you can't project either way. I mean, I think Einstein didn't talk till he was like 3 or 4, you know. I don't know if you guys know who Temple Grandin is, but I believe she didn't talk till she was 3. So, you know, you can't project too much either way from when they're this young. So I know it's easy to say this and hard to do this, but it's best just to worry about where they're at right now and try to keep progressing that forward as opposed to worry about where they're going to be.
Yeah, and I think that Eli, you hit that on the head for me of something that has been like my biggest growth over the last year is really trying to focus on that. Like if I even think about 4 years from now, 5 years from now, not even like long term, it feels overwhelming and crushing because it's just unknown. But if I think about like what did we do today? And we went to daycare, we had supper, he played a bit after supper, he went to bed. Like it's kind of regular in the day-to-day. It gets very scary when I think future. And I wish that I would have had more supports and like helping me realize that sooner after this diagnosis. It's taken like a year to try to practice that. And I don't even think I'm that good at it yet, but it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you guys are, I know for a fact, are much further along in your careers and much more successful than me, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but that's fundamentally that's how you get to any long-term goal is you figure out what thing you can do in a given time. You know, you've got short-term, medium-term, long-term, and you stack those things on top of each other, and then at the end, hopefully you've made it to where you want to be. So I think that's part of the reason why this community is full of so many incredible people is because they've had to learn that lesson the really, really hard way. And I wish they didn't have to, but I think that, you know, you have to find the good that comes out of this stuff. So what has it been like trying to get, you know, you spoke about this a little bit earlier, but trying to get resources for Sam? How do you sort of advocate for him, you know, medically, socially, at school, however that may happen?
My initial response is probably negative. Like I think there's a lot of things in our province of Saskatchewan that I would prefer we didn't have to fight for. I'm just thinking of things that we don't have hand. But we have like the what's it called? The development program that Sam goes to for his therapies regularly. I think we push all those appointments, book as many as we can. We push them to the limit that we're allowed to. Don't tell anybody. And again, Sam's small enough that we don't need any of the additional supports, but I know that there's challenges in getting anything else. I'm kind of rambling on now.
Yeah, I think it is two parts how I would think about it. Like the services exist, and then the other side is like parental capacity to make it happen. We have amazing team of people on the public side and the private side. And we have people who come to our home, or like that's at the booking request. Then we go to public institutions. Those two teams work together. It really just is I think it's a capacity issue of how much more can we take, how much more is actually benefiting the child. I don't know. You feel like, I think as a parent, this sense of like, I wish Sam was in therapies all day, every day. So I just feel like I'm doing the most I can for him, but it's not realistic. And so trying to keep that in perspective. I think Sam has full teams of people. Like he's got a cardiologist, a respirologist, he's got a neurologist, he's got a developmental pediatrician, so he's got a regular pediatrician, a family doctor. Like I think in terms of actual access to care, I'm not feeling frustrated right now that there's people we can't see. I think in Canada with our public health system, a lot of that is like if you're in an acute situation, you get access faster, which was that hospital. The catalyst was that hospital stay for us. I don't know. We don't have as many of the things. I see a lot, and I follow a lot of social media accounts of like intensives, like week-long intensives from like DMI therapy. That's not as prevalent, I wouldn't say, in Canada, or at least not where we live. Yeah, I don't know if that's a very good answer.
We had to do the hospitalization as a workaround too for his, I think it was an MRI.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just one of the unfortunate things. So you mentioned he has this team. Is that something that you had to fight for? Like, I need referrals to these professionals. These are things that I think he would find, that he needs, or was it something that was, that your pediatrician said, okay, you're going to need this, 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 and this? Kind of how did that work?
Kind of a mixture of both. I would say until we got that diagnosis, it was more us asking. You can self-refer, I think it's self-refer, to go to see the developmental team, like the therapists. And so we got in to see therapies pretty early, and a developmental pediatrician, and she really kicked off a lot of support and connection with like neurology. But it was really that hospital visit. Once Sam got the diagnosis, I remember the first appointment when we talked to just his regular pediatrician, who's awesome. That really, to me, felt like the first time, like she had done as much research as she could. But I remember sitting with her and she was like, I read about that there could be heart issues. Like, I want to get him in for these heart tests, like respirology. He's seen an ENT. Like, I really actually think that there's been a lot of support for getting the referrals. It's a matter of wait times sometime, but I don't feel anymore like I'm pushing the system. And also I would say the acuteness of how much I think he needs has gone down. Because when we didn't know what was going on, we were like trying to push for all of these things just to try to figure it out. Now that we know, I think he's got the right team of people around him, and there's really not a lot of like knock on all the wood you can, but like it's been pretty stable. Like he's gotten a couple colds this year. I don't know. He's been okay. It's been pretty stable this year. But now that I say that, and I even just had the fleeting thought something will change, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious, we've talked to you guys and we've talked to Becky and Brandon about kind of the differences between, because, sort of I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but sort of the common criticism you'd see of the public healthcare system is you get bogged down in red tape.
Yeah.
But it sounds like your experiences are very similar to ours in our healthcare system, which I don't think necessarily says anything good about either of them, unfortunately.
I think that's true, Eli. I got a call a couple months ago from an outpatient MRI trying to book Salmon for his MRI, like a year later after we had, like, it was just a couple months ago. And I was like, does he need another one? Like, why are you calling me? I didn't hear he needs another one, kind of thing. And that was the time frame from November of 2023 till whenever March 2025 that we would have waited for that MRI. I think it is true of many things in life that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we have been squeaky wheels and are like, you do have to advocate for your child. But I do feel like since we've had this diagnosis and the acuteness of all the stuff that we were dealing with really leveled off, that I'm sure if I really felt like I wanted to request another EEG, I would be able to call his neurologist. It wouldn't happen tomorrow, but she would take that seriously and would have that conference and have that discussion about it. So what I do feel like, and I don't think it's just in Canada, I do feel bad I wish it wasn't this way. You do have to be an advocate. And I think that that is true no matter where you are in the world. And I do feel bad for maybe those who don't have the capacity to be an advocate, or just whatever circumstances are in your life. Like, everybody's going through different things at different stages, and sometimes you just don't have the capacity to do it all. And I really feel for those circumstances, for those people and those children. Like, it takes a lot of work. It's, as everybody has said, you get these diagnoses, and as a parent you become like a doctor or a researcher, a scheduler. You need like an admin person to follow you around in your life, just to like help you with the coordination of efforts.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing too is like a lot of these, like, take for example, like pediatric neurologists, like, that's just an understaffed position as a whole. Like, there's a limited number of people with sort of the intelligence and the access to education to become a pediatric neurologist, and then there's a smaller number yet that actually do it. And then, as all those things kind of funnel down, and there's just not enough of them for all the patients that they have, no matter where you go.
1,000%. Lucky we live in a place where there's a children's hospital, so our city has a children's hospital. And so I think that naturally draws in more pediatric specialists. And so I feel lucky for that.
Our experience, we went to Pittsburgh Children's, but our experience there is great. Haley and I were joking, it's like the anti-hospital. Like, everybody is super friendly and helpful and will bend over backwards to help you. Whereas, if you go to a regular old hospital, it's very, very different.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing with that is, I don't know if you guys have had this experience either, but if you can get one really good person on your team, they can help advocate for everything else. Like, our pediatrician is great. Our geneticist is really good. The neurologist is good too, but the pediatrician and the geneticist in particular, when we were going to get our genetic testing done, he's like, hey, here's a test we're getting. We'll run it through your insurance. We'll advocate on your behalf to do everything we can to get it covered. If we can't get it covered, here are these foundations for Ohio that could help you pay for genetic testing. Here's the contact information. And he like really fought on our behalf to make sure Leo got the care that he deserved. And our pediatrician is the same way. She's really proactive with making referrals. Haley goes to most of the appointments most of the time, just kind of the way our jobs work. But if Haley ever says, hey, I think we really need this, I don't think she's ever really given us much pushback on anything.
Yeah.
The only thing she might have given us pushback on was the autism diagnosis, and we got him diagnosed before he was 2, which generally doesn't happen. So like, that's an understandable thing to kind of stand your ground on a little bit. But
yeah, I can appreciate what you're saying about like public versus private, because everything like that you're saying with like the genetic testing, I mean, the hospital just ordered that, and it never crossed my mind that we would have to pay for that, because it's a completely different system. And so even for me to request an EEG, it's done through a hospital. I don't pay for that. So
Right.
I appreciate that it is like maybe the time frame needs to take a little bit longer because they're dealing with a lot of kids. But I mean, we've been lucky. The only things that we have to pay for out of pocket so far have been Sam's like private in-home therapies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to both systems, I guess. So
100%. Yeah, 100%.
what has it been like for your other kids to have Sam as a brother?
That's a good question. I think it's been really positive for them. They understand. I don't know if they fully understand, but they acknowledge that there's a difference between how Sam is growing and how his 5-week younger cousin is growing that we see almost on a daily basis. That was a challenging conversation to have with them, but we kind of just had it, and then they went on with their breakfast. And yeah, Erin talked about how excited they get when Sam does his little things, and it's just starting to turn a corner where I think they're interested in actually playing together with Sam and seeing what he does and sharing kind of the toys and stuff with him and directing him towards things that Sam is more interested in. So overall, yeah, I think they really, really like having him around.
I think they're really, I mean, we have everybody has great kids. We have two really great older kids as well. Our boy, Julian, he's such a lover of, he's got big feelings, high highs and low lows, but he loves Sam. So does Elliot, but Julian is like, I turned around the other day and we don't have full confidence when Sam is standing up that we should just walk away because sometimes he just like topples over. And I turn around and Julian's there behind him, like helping him. Like he's so in tune, I think, with just being helpful. For sometimes I worry a little bit that we're asking them to like too much, but I don't think it's asking too much to sit behind your little brother. So they're really loving and they know it's not maybe what they would typically play with like a 2-year-old little brother, but Sam likes looking at their t-shirts every morning and they like line up to show him his t-shirts and he touches their t-shirts and they like touch his face and then they move on. Like they find their own ways to love him and they love him very big and very hard.
That's great. I know he's on Instagram. He's probably on TikTok too. There's an account called My Brother Maxie that I recommend everybody should follow because it's the guy, he's actually, I think, a year younger than his brother. And his brother's he's verbal, but he's got pretty high support needs autism. And he makes videos with him all the time. And it's just incredible, the relationship that those two boys have.
That's funny. Yeah, no, they are like fighting over who gets to sit beside Sam in the tub. Sam has to go in the middle because they want to both be by him. So like I said, Sam has got some popularity complex going on, I think. Everybody really loves him.
Yeah, it seems like whatever knobs that MCHS turns, it really cranks up the charm knob.
For sure.
Everyone I talk to, everyone I've met, you know, they're the people with MCHS, everybody loves them, and they're generally a pretty happy disposition. I mean, obviously not all the time. Everybody's got their challenges, but, you know, it's just funny how that works.
Yeah.
So what do you think some of the most difficult aspects of parenting Sam are? Maybe some things that like wouldn't be obvious to someone who doesn't have a child with special needs?
That's a really good question. I feel like I could talk for a long time about that. I think some of the hidden things that you don't see that are really difficult is just some of the like day-to-day sadnesses that pop up. So when you see other families doing things that are just not that they're impossible for your family, they're just harder. You know, we go to a restaurant and it's like you have to bring, well, we barely go to restaurants because I don't have, like the high chairs in the restaurants aren't always easiest for Sam to sit in. And just things like that are more so subtle. You see a kid his age doing something and you just wish that he could do that. I find that really emotionally quite challenging. I think the day that he sat it up in the shopping cart, sorry, I lost the word there. I was like taking pictures of him in the grocery store and like waving strangers over to be like, look at my kid. It's his first day sitting in a shopping cart, which I recognize for some that's not even possible. So I think there's just a lot of things that you take for granted that we don't anymore. And Meredith said it, like you have to plan to walk to it. You make like a strategy of how to get to a different room some days with carrying kids. And our older kids don't always understand why they kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes with like, no, Julian, I'm not going to carry this for you because I'm carrying Sam and he can't walk and you can. So like, get it together, little child. You know, it's like sometimes unfair expectations. I find that really challenging. Yeah, I don't know, I'll turn it to you.
Just last week, actually, I took Sam to respirology, and I expected it to be a 5-minute conversation about, the regular check-in. And then we started talking about how he sleeps, and he sleeps okay, but he's not well rested all the time. He still needs naps in the morning. He can't make it to lunch, and he's tired, and there's iron deficiencies that might affect that. I have to pay more attention to how he's sleeping at night, and it really deflated me after that just one appointment because it was a reminder of how you have to remain vigilant at all times. Like you can't take your mind off of parenting or the next step, or even just taking him from the car seat into the house. We have to put him on the ground and worry that he's sitting up, or lay him down and then he's cranky, and you have to remain really, really vigilant. And that appointment kind of triggered that a little bit for me. So
yeah, What issues does he have relative to respiration, if you don't mind my asking?
It's on this thickened liquid, so he was aspirating with just regular liquids. It was entering his lungs, which was prone to infection, high risk of pneumonia, and that's about it.
So why does that make it that you have to be more vigilant? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I mean, I understand that aspirating could lead to more infection. I just don't understand how that impacts your everyday life.
No, I mean, that is a minor impact. We have to put powder into liquids. That's a minor impact.
I see.
I think what Chris was saying is more just theoretical. With our older two children, just like don't really worry about them. Like I do worry about them.
I
Like please don't get hit by a car, which I would worry about that with Sam. I just feel like there's that extra layer of like constant vigilance. Like, is he having a seizure? Is he getting too hot? Like I went to a little school dance and brought him last night, and there was a bunch of strobe lights, and I was worried. Like I don't know, is that a urban legend that this could cause a seizure? Like I wasn't worried about that with my other little boy who was there having fun. So
Right.
I just feel like we're always a little bit more worried because everything feels so much more unknown. And that worry is very exhausting, as you know, equally to us.
Yeah, no, now I completely understand what you're saying. I know that for us, vigilance sort of extends to just his routine because he's so locked into a routine. And if you screw up something, the next week is just blown up. So like, a lot of times I feel, I can't speak for Haley, but I feel that like we're a slave to his routine, not in like a bad way or in a resentful way, but just that like it really puts handcuffs on our ability to like enjoy our weekend because he's got a nap right in the middle of the day, or it screws everything up and things like that. So
Yeah.
and a lot of that is probably just me being lazy. Like we could figure out ways to work his routine around things, but again, it's just everything else is so exhausting. It's like, well, do I want to go on this hike? And then we have to time everything out around his nap and his snacks, and it's just easier to stay home.
Yep.
But it also, you sit at home and think about how you should be out doing things.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think the other thing is just like the long-term unknown. Like, I don't know what our older two kids are going to be like either, but I just am expecting certain things, right? Like whether they're going to do this job or go to school or not go to school. Like you just sort of, there's so much unknown with their kid, but it's not as feeling of a daunting, scary unknown. And I think for Sam, it feels like a heavy unknown versus just a question mark unknown. And working to flip that script is very exhausting. I also think, again, I can't remember who said it on that Facebook group, but there's just like not a lot of support for parents, for children of rare diseases. Like if there's a lot of terrible illnesses in the world, I totally get that. I feel like a lot of things you can just go to the hospital and get a treatment for. A lot you can't, but like a lot, there's like known medicines and treatments for things. And this just feels like such uncharted waters. It creates just a heavy feeling all the time.
Yeah. I mean, kind of I don't want to say counter because it's not an argument, but like the sort of antidote to that would be to say that we're so fortunate that we live right now, because if Sam had been born even 10 years ago, they wouldn't even be able to test for this.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of, the U.S. Foundation, I think Dr. Cowan is associated with Rare Bird. There are various other foundations that are all working towards treatments for this.
1,000%, I agree completely. And just like the connectivity of social media and even like texting, I guess texting existed 10 years ago, but like we're connected with people all over the world. And that's a pretty remarkable thing. And like how fast science is advancing, it gives us a lot of hope. It just feels like there's I just want like somebody to come in and say like, let me do this research for you. Like, let me connect with these people. Let me raise this money. And a lot of it is on parents. Well, all on parents. And, you're dealing with just life. And it's a whole extra job, it feels like, to advocate and advance things on behalf of your community. It's a lot.
For sure. So what things on the flip side of that do you think have been the most positive about being Sam's parents?
I say this a lot, and I think I've heard other people say it too, but like It makes everybody engage and connected with people with disabilities like Sam. Like, it makes them better people. More empathy. It makes you appreciate things all the more. I think it just makes everybody a better person, and and higher functioning person too. Which, I don't know, you could argue whether or not that's better, but I am proud of the things that we've done and accomplished through the first year of this diagnosis. So I like that about it. These kids are amazing. Absolutely incredible, inspiring. You see all the struggles. Every single thing is infinitely harder, not infinitely, but significantly harder, and they're still pushing through and happy. So it's like, yeah, that's the most amazing part about it. And there's a lot of positivity to gain from all of that.
Yeah, I feel like our worlds, I'm not gonna say it's like a world that I was like scratching and itching to be in because I didn't even know it was a possibility. But our worlds have gotten a lot bigger through this, like just the people we've met and really eye-opening experiences of, my previous plight used to be like there should be baby change tables in men's and women's washrooms, and now it's like, oh my god, it never literally crossed my mind, and shame on me for this, but it never crossed my mind that there should be adult size changing tables in men's and women's washrooms. Like, just the level of awareness, I think, about how our world could be so much more inclusive. Yeah, it's like maybe ignorance is bliss, but it is also important, I think, as a society that we do get to see that other side. So because there's going to be all sorts of different kids and adults and humans, and it's really important to advance society in that way.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with that is, once you've got your eyes open to that, it can be really easy to kind of spiral with that. There's actually Haley would be I'm not sure if annoyed or impressed if when she hears that I've managed to work an Aldo Leopold reference into this. But Aldo Leopold was the inventor of wildlife biology. He wrote a book called Sand County Almanac, and in that book, I can't remember exactly the title of which essay it was, but he talks about living in a world of wounds, and once you sort of understand the ecological impact of things, you walk around and you see them everywhere, and it's really easy to just be like, holy cow, like everything's so terrible. And he talks about kind of how to combat that. So Leo is short for Leopold, by the way. That's who he was named after. But what was so the other thing I was going to talk about with Chris talking about being a better person is, so like there's a school of philosophy called Stoicism that's very popular in like pop culture today. There's an author named Ryan Holiday who kind of repopularized it. And a lot of like tech bros and NFL teams and stuff like that talk about it. But sort of the fundamental thesis of Stoicism is that like a basic part of life is that you're going to have some burden to bear, and what the value you get out of life is willingly shouldering that burden and moving it forward the best way you know how. So for some people it's different. Some people's burdens are lighter and heavier, but for people like us, this is ours, and I think I've got a lot of value out of trying to make a difference. And it is just nice on some level to feel like you're on the cutting edge of something. I know that might be a little bit weird, but like like we as a community right now, there's only 400 or 500 cases somewhere in there. Who knows what it could be in 10 years with genetic testing becoming more widespread. I believe I read that they think the numbers are close to 1 in 30,000 people is actually are people who have MCHS. That number is orders of magnitude bigger than it is right now.
For
So
sure.
the work that we do right now could make a difference to literally thousands of people in a generation. So I think that that's really exciting, and we should all take that really seriously and be proud of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you guys want to tell us a little bit about the Family Foundation and sort of how that started, and what you guys are doing with that?
Yeah, sure. I'll start and then Chris can jump in. We've met just some, like we've said throughout the theme of this call, has really been just some really awesome people. And so got together with and met most of them, if not all of them, at that Boston family study in the fall of 24. And then really formed some good connections. And I think that I believe I fully accept my kid for who he is, but I do not accept MEF2C as a diagnosis that there's nothing we can do about it. Like, that's what we were told when we first heard about this. There's nothing you can do and there's no treatment. And I just like, no, like, cool. Thanks for that information. Like, see you in a couple years once we've changed all this. So I feel very motivated by action, and we just met the most wonderful people who understand exactly what we're going through, who are really motivated to just create a real good sense of collaboration and support, and for families like ours who are, you know, some of the darkest days of their life hearing these news. And how can we better support them? We're just a different way of supporting. And so that's really what motivated us. And I feel really grateful to be in this club of people that make me laugh, make me cry in a good way, not in a bad way. They're just wonderful founders who care so much about making everybody's life better and advancing MEF2C on like the rare disease space.
It's actually so much fun too, being a part of the foundation with the other founders. We meet regularly and, you know, we've become very close friends. And I even had the opportunity to fly to Boston to see Caroline Claffin in person with her family, and it was amazing. It was just me, nobody else came with me, but we had a wonderful dinner. And yeah, being part of this group is so much fun and meaningful because we're all going through the same thing. And we're like-minded in ways and different in other ways that really adds value to the conversations that we had, and I think can increase the impact that we'll have to the broader community. And I think really proud of everything that in a very short time that we've kind of launched the things that have happened and the way we're progressing. For those parents who weren't on the first monthly parent chat, it was awesome to talk and get to know everybody and share challenges and issues and things about our families and our lives that we can learn from each other with. And so, yeah, we're only just getting started, and that's the really cool thing. It's barely even gotten started, and we're really starting to see the messaging kind of get out there and the networks expanding, and it's really, really, really cool.
So what do you hope that the impact that the foundation has on the community is?
I hope we are able to bring people together. I hope we're able to support the good work. And I don't think it's a hope, I think it's happening. The support, just the amazing work that the other foundations are doing, because we need to have voices in all corners of the world. I hope we're able to be a really soft spot to land for when parents are finding out this news, and also just like action oriented that you can do. Here's how you can help. If you want to mobilize, this is how you can join us to mobilize. Like, we need all of our voices together, like marching in the same direction as a community. That's important. I think Dr. Chung said it on your podcast that I listened to yesterday. You need to be together and organized and have your data ready and your people ready. And that's what's attractive to the scientific community, and that is very important.
Yeah, excuse me. A lot of people I've talked to, both on the podcast and off, have mentioned to me it did feel kind of like there was a certain sort of fracturedness to like the landscape of the charities, because, you know, different foundations are sort of going different ways, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Everybody tries something different, and hopefully something will work. I think everybody's doing great work. But it didn't seem like there was one place where everyone could just go and be like, what is, like you said, just find the resources they need to sort of get started. So it seems like your organization could fill that role, and I'm really excited about it.
I think we've learned that that's fairly common kind of in the rare disease world. And that's really, I think, what our purpose is just to bring alignment and bring the community all together and support everything that all the other foundations are doing as well.
Right.
To make sure that this foundation is coordinating the pathways to hope. Let's gather everybody in North America and find ways to make sure we can help and support that. There's the Cornell study that needs patients. There's the citizen registry that the data will be needed if we ever want to move forward on the next stages of therapies and stuff like that. So this is a tool. The foundation is a tool in which we can kind of coalesce all that information and help parents navigate that.
And I'm sure it feels similar to you, Eli, like with this podcast. I think as a parent, when you're told there's nothing you can do, it's like, I don't know, like I'm not often told there's nothing I can do where that's the truth. Like, There is stuff we can do, and it feels like, at least I feel like we can be doing something, and it feels better to be doing something. And it's just our personal opinion, but like similar, I'm sure, to you with this podcast, how much of a difference it's making. I was saying that to our group even after I heard all of them, but like a year ago that didn't exist. And that would have been, if I would have been able to find that a year ago and hear these parents who have a duality of struggle, but also just immense joy, that would have been so meaningful in some of those very early dark days. And I think we can mobilize as a community more of that and amplify each other's voices and really have a movement. Our kids deserve that.
Yeah, when we got our diagnosis, our geneticist gave us the website for, I believe, the foundation from Spain, because that's the only one that he could find. But, hopefully your guys' efforts will help make that information a lot more accessible, not just to families who already have the diagnosis, but to professionals. And like, one thing I would recommend everybody do is all the resources you found so far. So, the Family Foundation website, the US Foundation website, Rare Bird, like, take all that information and email it to your geneticist and say, hey, I know you'll probably never see another person like this again, but maybe someone in your department will, or someone in, you know what I mean? And just try to get that information out there, and eventually it'll get to the right people. And it certainly can't hurt anything. So
100%. Yeah, I agree completely.
One thing on our path, we spoke to many other rare diseases and their foundations, and the one thing that came of it, which was really interesting, and I wonder if you found the same information, was just, if you can't do anything else, start a podcast. Just start talking to the community. Even if nobody listens, those things last forever, and people will listen eventually, and your community is going to grow, and it brings everybody together, it tells their stories, it connects you to new people who might be experiencing similar things. And I think most importantly, it just builds trust. And everything that we are doing with the Family Foundation, everything in this community is built on trust across each other. So anyway, thank you for putting this together. It's awesome.
thank you for saying that. I mean, it wasn't quite that way, but it was similar. I'm basically a professional hiker. So like a couple years ago, I got my Spotify Wrapped, and I literally listened to over, I forget what the number was, but it was like over a full-time job's hours of podcasts. So I have a lot of experience listening to them. We had no experience making a podcast, but all the, like I said earlier at the beginning, there's just not that much peer-reviewed scientific data on that stuff, and people want to know things, but there's not enough data to make conclusions beyond extreme generalizations yet. Like, that's just not scientifically possible right now. So the information Haley and I got, that was most valuable was from doing things like this, like just speaking to other parents.
Yeah.
So Haley contacted Susan Simmons, and Susan called her and talked for like 2 hours one day. And she got off the phone, and I said, other people should be able to listen to this. We should start a podcast.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we got started with this. But yeah, I mean, frankly, and this is kind of to your point of just try something. Like, I have no qualifications to be podcasting other than like I'm relatively articulate, and I really like to run my mouth, and you know what I mean? And I'm passionate about this stuff because of Leo.
Well, I've learned like 4 things about biology in the last month from you. So I think you're doing a great job.
Well, great. I'm happy that I can help somebody with something.
What's the most embarrassing podcast that you listen to in your 60 hours per week?
I don't really know. That's a good question. Embarrassing, like, individual show?
I don't know.
I've listened to some pretty, like, quackish episodes of Joe Rogan where I'm like, if anybody heard me listening to this, they'd think that I was crazy. Like, he did one with Mike Tyson one time, and Tyson was so whacked that even Joe was like, yeah, I don't think that's true. And if Joe's going to say that, then he's really got to be out there. What advice would you give to parents just starting this journey?
I come back to, like, it's kind of everything, like, yes, everything is going to be okay. And I had that when there was some doubts about Sam and we didn't have a diagnosis. I didn't feel worried, I'm not the worrier. And I felt like it doesn't matter what he has, everything's going to be okay. That didn't prepare me for diagnosis day in any way, shape, or form. but on the other end of it, like it remains more true now than it did before that. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be awful. It's going to be just the worst experience, but everything has a way of working itself out. It's just a matter of time and the people in the community and the folks that can help you get through that. It's kind of a cliche at this point, but it really is the truth.
Yeah, I would say for people just starting this journey, I really empathize with that. It's such a hard thing to feel like your life is going to be very different from what you thought it would be. I don't think that's a fair thing that anybody should have to go through, whether it's a genetic disease or cancer or an accident. I mean, like you said, everybody's going to have something in their life, and we just don't always get to know what that is right away. But I would say there's hope. That's how I would feel about it. There's a lot of advances being made in technology, as you mentioned, and there's hope, there's community, there's resources, and even if it doesn't feel like it right now, to Chris's point, one day it will feel okay on a big level, even though there will be day-to-day hard. But you know what? There's day-to-day hard with everything. Like, I have day-to-day hard with my 7-year-old. There's even more day-to-day hard with my 4-year-old. So, yeah, we're just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And don't lose sight of the positive that comes out of this, too. Because, like I never thought, I think all of us have friends in countries and places and occupations and things through this that we never in a million years thought that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is a lot of good that comes out of it, even if the thing itself isn't good as a whole, you can focus on the good things that come out of it.
Yeah, that's right. I know we mentioned Aaliyah and Meredith and from the foundation and Caroline who helped build the website. Also want to shout out specific to Stephanie, who has been doing the most with social media. She's a wealth of knowledge with her beautiful daughter Demi, who's 10, and she's 5x the time in this than we are, and I really admire her and all that she's done, and she is doing the most with the socials. So I know we talked about our other founders and how grateful we are for them, and I just don't want to not shout out to Stephanie as well.
Sure, absolutely. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about how people can get involved with the Family Foundation?
Yeah, you can go to the website. There is an email that you can contact if you want to be involved. We're still in the infancy stages, but we're looking for people that, even we were talking the other day about things across Canada. I don't know all the provinces' regulations. I would love to have some support for helping us with that. We have our Parent Connects, so you can sign up for the link on Mighty, where we have just an alternative to Facebook. I was so against Facebook and I was off of it and then had to get back on it once we got this diagnosis. So it's nice to have an alternative to Facebook, but I would really say make use of the resources on the website and reach out to any of us if you're interested in providing a hand and support. Perspective, different ideas, we all bring something to the table.
The website is MEF2C Family Foundation.org, correct?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I like the Mighty community. It is really nice to have that place where you can go and just look at what's going on in this community specifically and avoid the pitfalls that Facebook can throw at you.
That's right.
All right, is there anything else you guys would like to say to the listeners?
Yeah, I would say thank you to everybody who's just come before us on this journey and has helped us so far along, and we really stand on those shoulders, just like the people that come after us will stand on ours. So just thank you to everybody for their vulnerability and sharing and answering questions and openness, because we're in this little tiny corner of the world and we would be lost without that. So thank you, and just get involved because we will make change, and I know that.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for your time and your words and for all the work you're doing with the Family Foundation. We've got lots of exciting episodes coming up after you guys. We've got, I think, 6 interviews scheduled in the next 6 days.
Wow.
So lots of cool stuff coming up. And again, you guys, our audience, can go to MEF2CFamilyFoundation.org, find out about everything the Family Foundation is doing. Lots of good resources there. As always, you can contact us on our Facebook page or you can email us at mef2ccast@gmail.com. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, Eli.